Thank you. Wow, thank you, team. Friends, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Attawandaron, and the Wendat peoples. 18 years ago, a terrorist attack hit the United States and shocked the world. Canadians reached out with compassion and care, and I want to just take a moment to acknowledge those who lost their life, and the friends and family that continue to be impacted by that loss, and the first responders who responded so courageously. Friends, we're here in London, beautiful city, a city I spent 5 years of my life when I went to Western. I gotta say it was a city where I had some of my best memories and some of my toughest. This is the city where my brother came to live with me. I took him in and I took care of him. It's a time when we went through a lot of struggles. I had to work a lot of jobs to make ends meet. And it was during that time that a lot of friends and family stepped up and helped me out. They helped out with food and with support. And it reminded me of a very Canadian value. I wouldn't have got through those tough times without their support. And that's what Canadians believe in. We believe in taking care of one another. Now, you all know I love Canada, and I believe we can make it even better. Earlier today, I had a chance to speak with Jessica, Nancy, and Jack. Now, Jessica is pregnant and a cancer survivor, and she told me about how difficult it was and how difficult it is for her to afford the medication that she needs without the coverage. It's crushing. I met Nancy and Jack, who are both retired, and they told me about how they continue to worry about out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. They don't know when the next expense is going to come up. They don't know how much it's going to cost for dental care or if they need new glasses, and they're worried. Now, I believe we can do better for people like Nancy, Jack, and Jessica. But we can do that only if we have the courage to take on the powerful interests at the very top. We can expand our Medicare system to include medication for all, pharmacare for all, and extend it beyond that to include dental care, vision and hearing care, and mental health services. We can do that, but only if we have the courage to take on the lobbyists and the corporate interests. We can build 500,000 new affordable homes across this country and tackle the housing crisis. We can do that, but only if we have the courage to take on money launderers and speculators that keep on driving the cost of housing. And we can provide a relief for Canadians who are paying some of the highest costs in the world for cell phones and internet services. We can do that, but only if we have the courage to take on the big telecom lobbyists. And we can fight now. We can act now to take on the climate crisis and build 300,000 new quality jobs, but only if we have the courage to take on the big polluters and to end the fossil fuel subsidies. Nous vivons dans un pays où les riches sont de plus en plus riches. Un pays où la majorité de la population n'a pas accès aux mêmes avantages. Un pays où le gouvernement conservateur et libéraux ont créé un système qui profite aux riches et qui laisse tomber la reste entre nous. 4 years ago, Justin Trudeau charmed us with pretty words and empty promises. He said the right things, but he didn't do them. Behind closed doors, Justin Trudeau does whatever the wealthy and powerful corporations want him to do. It's clear Justin Trudeau isn't who he pretended to be. And Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives are not the answer. They're going to cut taxes for the wealthy, but they're going to cut services that you and your families count on. You'll pay the price with an even worse with even more expensive healthcare, an even more expensive medication, and an even worsening climate crisis. Mes amis, à chaque élection, les libéraux et les conservateurs nous font une série de promesses, mais trop souvent, ils n'y tiennent pas parole. Quand vient le temps de choisir entre les intérêts de la population ou ceux des grandes multinationales, leur choix est clair. Ils choisissent ceux des pétrolières et des compagnies pharmaceutiques. Quand on veut des résultats différents, il faut faire des choix différents. Dans cette élection se résume à un choix clair. Sur qui pouvez-vous compter pour se battre pour vous? So this election comes down to a really clear question. Who can you count on to fight for you? When I was a kid, that's right. When I was a kid, I never imagined that someone that looked like me would be running to be prime minister. People told me time and time again the things that I couldn't do. But now, kids run up and say, seeing you do this, I feel like I can do anything. And that's inspirational. We have an exciting opportunity over the next 40 days. We are going to bring a hopeful message to Canadians that we can build the country of our dreams. A country where everyone has a place to call home. Healthcare when they need it. Clean water to drink and clean air to breathe. Good jobs and a bright future. You know, everywhere I go, I meet hardworking people who want to be treated fairly and want to build a good life for themselves and their family. These are the people New Democrats have always worked for. These are the people I'm in it for. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm ready to take any of your questions.
I have a question.
We'll start right here.
CTV News over here, Kevin Gallagher. So, Mr. Singh, launching your campaign, the polling numbers that we see, of course, are lower than those when Tom Mulcair was voted out of the party. Pundits are saying the party's in trouble, you know, that you're going to have a very difficult time holding on to what you have in the House of Commons. What's your strategy giving that context?
Well, you know, we're looking at what's going on right now in Canada. And what I'm hearing from people is that they're done with governments that seem to continually prioritize making it easier for the very rich and making it harder for them. They want someone who's going to stand up and expand our healthcare system. The questions that I keep on hearing about how hard it is to pay for medication really plague me. And I think about the fact that we are in this position because governments have chosen to make it easier for big pharma instead of making it easier for people. And I'm confident that people will see in us champions who want to put them at the center and heart of everything we do.
On that subject of affordability, of course, we're in London, Ontario, home of General Dynamics, the contract that has the labs going to Saudi Arabia, a contract that you would cancel if you're prime minister. What would you say to workers here that depend on those types of contracts for their livelihoods?
I'd say those workers that Canada has a lot of needs in our own military services, that there's a lot of need that we could satisfy, a lot of contracts we could satisfy here in Canada. And those hardworking people should continue to have those contracts here in Canada or in jurisdictions where there's not an oppressive regime like in Saudi Arabia. If there's any example of a time when we should be canceling an arms deal, it's in the example where we've got a country that's alleged to have committed murder of a journalist, that's involved in an ongoing killing of the people of Yemen, and that has been implicated in horrible human rights violations of its own citizens. This is the case that calls out for ending that agreement, but continuing with contracts here in Canada so that we continue to maintain those jobs.
Bonjour, M. Singh. Christian Noël de Radio-Canada.
semble maintenant que
Je
la
m'excuse,
GRC...
c'était pendant l'applaudissement, j'ai manqué la question.
Christian Noël de Radio-Canada, bonjour.
Oui, bonjour.
La GRC semble avoir de la difficulté à interroger les gens dans l'histoire de SNC-Lavalin et les allégations d'obstruction à la justice. Si c'était possible d'interviewer ces gens-là, est-ce que vous pensez qu'on apprendrait vraiment quelque chose de neuf?
Oui, bien sûr, parce que ce qu'on a entendu des ministres, ils ont dit qu'ils ont des choses à partager, mais à cause de le fait qu'ils n'ont pas le droit de partager leur histoire, ils n'ont plus eu la chance de partager cette histoire avec le commissaire d'éthique. Donc, ce qu'on a eu, le reportage de commissaire d'éthique, elle a dit qu'elle était approchée par des ministres, ils ont voulu partager leur histoire, mais ils ne pouvaient pas à cause de le fait qu'ils n'ont pas le droit de le faire.
Vous voulez vous faire le champion de monsieur, madame, tout le monde. Les conservateurs, les libéraux veulent aussi aider la classe moyenne. Tout le monde veut le faire. Les conservateurs, les libéraux semblent avoir une campagne complètement nationale. De votre côté, les moyens sont moins grands. Vous avez une campagne peut-être un peu plus régionalisée. Pourquoi est-ce que les gens devraient voter pour vous si vous avez moins de chances de former le gouvernement maintenant?
On a une campagne qui va être nationale. On va voyager à travers le pays. Mais en fait, la question, c'est ça. Oui, les conservateurs ont dit qu'il est là pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde, mais c'est quoi leur bilan? Ils toujours coupent les services dont les gens ont besoin. Ils toujours coupent les services comme le service de santé, l'éducation. On peut voir la preuve. Ici, en Ontario, ils ont coupé tous les services que les gens ont besoin, dont les gens ont besoin. Donc, c'est clair ce qu'ils font. Et aussi, si on regarde le bilan, c'est toujours le cas qu'entre la priorité de la population et les grandes compagnies, les conservateurs et les libéraux toujours choisissent les priorités des grandes compagnies. Ça, c'est la grande question dans cette élection. C'est qui pouvait se battre pour vous? Et en fait, je dis que c'est les l'NPD qui ont toujours montré cette volonté de travail pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde.
Mr. Singh, Hannah Thibodeau with CBC
Hi there.
National News. I just want to ask you, following up to Kevin's question, you say that, we're talking about problems with the campaign already as we head in. What do you personally have to do to move forward and get over a lot of these hurdles?
Well, we're showing people right now with our commitments. We're committed to changing the way things are done in politics. We want to do things differently, and I believe it can be done. We've seen the past number of years, the record has been that governments in Ottawa really haven't responded to the needs of people. I'll give you one concrete example. When it comes to the cost of medication, something that is plaguing Canadians, something that people are worried about, and we look at the commitments made by Mr. Trudeau, he promised to reduce the cost of medication by a simple change that would have just set a list of different countries to compare our prices to. He abandoned that commitment, and we wonder why. Well, in 4 years, he met with the pharmaceutical lobbyist over 875 times, the great corporate interest lobbyists. And as a result of that, he abandoned a commitment. That's a choice. That's not a happenstance or a coincidence. What we're saying to Canadians is this. We are committed to fighting the powerful interests and making sure people's needs are put first. And that's what we bring.
But I don't think that answered the question about you personally and the hurdles you personally have to overcome in this campaign.
Okay, sure. Sure, I faced hurdles in my life historically, and I face hurdles maybe now. But it's no different for many people in Canada who face hurdles and barriers because of their own identity. Women continue to face barriers in advancements in their careers. They're underrepresented in almost every sector. When you look at those at the higher echelon, whether it's in the corporate culture, whether it's in academia, women are underrepresented. People are faced with barriers because of their sexuality, because of the language they speak, because of their identity, their religion. Those are challenges that many Canadians face. And I can say that maybe I experience a little bit of what people go through, and I hope people can see in me someone that understands those realities and wants to build a country where there are no barriers, where no one has to face these barriers based on who they are. They can be celebrated for who they are, and they can achieve the best that they can in their lives.
Alex Ballingall with the Toronto Star. The bulk of your platform's been out for now a few months, and there's some pretty big likely expensive promises in it. When will Canadians see a full costing of the NDP's platform so they can judge whether what you're promising is feasible or possible?
Well, in terms of feasibility, it's really a matter of choices. I mean, if you look at the past year, Mr. Trudeau didn't do a feasibility study before he cut the corporate tax rate by $14 billion to allow the wealthiest corporations to buy corporate jets and limousines. He didn't study that, he made a choice. He didn't really ask people or consult whether Canada could afford to buy a pipeline, and he spent $4.5 billion on a pipeline. That's almost $20 billion in money that was spent to help out the wealthiest, not to help out Canadians. We would make different choices. With the resources we have, we take it very seriously. We take our budget very seriously. But we would invest in things like universal pharmacare for all, building the housing that people need, making sure people are put at the center of what we do. We also have put forward some of our measures. So we're working with the Parliamentary Budget Office to put out the costing. And one of the things that we've announced recently is to pay for some of our promises, we're ready to increase revenue. And to do that, we're asking the people at the very top to pay a little more. And so we put forward a super wealth tax, which is a tax on those who've got fortunes of over 20 million. The PBO has announced that that would raise in the first year close to 6 billion, and eventually it could build up to about $10 billion. That's a commitment to raise funds to enact our promises.
As I'm sure you know, Pierre Nantel yesterday, a former NDP MP, basically was saying that if there was a referendum, he would vote for Quebec separation. It should happen as soon as possible. I'm wondering what you think of that, and what if you have any concerns that somebody who obviously believes in splitting Canada apart felt at home in the NDP for so many years.
Well, I mean, with New Democrats, you know what you get. We are a party that believes in working extremely hard to keep this beautiful country together. But at the same time, we understand that Quebec is a unique nation, that it's a unique place, and that's something that's very special. We celebrate that. What we will do as a New Democratic Party is make sure that everyone in our country, all the provinces, all the territories, all the nations, the First Nations, everyone feels that in Canada they will get justice, they will get fairness, they can build a good life. That's what we're committed to doing.
Hi. Hi, I'm Colin Butler. I'm with the local CBC here in London. You probably noticed it on your way in. London has a pretty visible problem. It has a huge problem with poverty, drugs. The only city that hands out more needles than we do is Vancouver. So if you were to become prime minister, if your party were to gain power, even if it had a deciding vote in a minority parliament, how would it help clean up a problem that's extremely visible here, where there's mental health and drug problems that no one seems to be able to solve?
You touched on a problem that is really rampant across Canada, but yes, you see it here in London. And there's a couple of reasons why we're faced with this problem. One, there's a massive gap when it comes to mental health services. It's one of the elements of our healthcare that's really neglected in our healthcare system. And so one of our responses to that is we believe that if someone needs mental health care, if they need addiction care, if they need rehab services, they should be able to access that. And it shouldn't mean that only those who've got private insurance can get into a rehab facility. What I really believe is that if we develop a head-to-toe healthcare coverage, it should include massive investments in rehab and addiction services. It should also include supports for mental health services so that people can get the care they need. What we have now is a national crisis when it comes to opioids and drug use. We need to respond to that crisis as a national crisis, and as well with a healthcare response to help the people that are dying, to help the people that need help and care, and we can do if we make better choices.
But how do you make people care about that? I mean, there's people who they're in full-blown psychosis in the middle of the downtown, and everybody ignores it. I mean, no one's talking about this in the race. So how do you make that a priority so that everybody's talking about it?
Yeah, so what I've called for is, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a national crisis. If there was thousands of people dying as a result of Zika, we would have immediately mobilized the entire country with mobile centers to respond to that. Right now, there is a national crisis where thousands of Canadians are dying because of opioid use. It should be treated like a national crisis. I'm calling for that. On day one of a new Democratic government, we would declare a public health emergency. nationally, which would open up a lot of services and supports to provide care at the front level, at the front lines. In addition, we would say we should approach this in a different way. When people are dealing with addictions, these are folks that are dealing with mental health, they're dealing with addiction, they're dealing with poverty. The solution isn't to put them in jail. The solution is to provide them with care, with rehab, with addiction services, so that we can solve the problem and not just continually deal with the symptoms. We care about people, and we're going to respond in a way that shows how much we care and how much we can do when we work together.
Mr. Singh, Mike Couture with Global National. I wanted to ask you, the latest numbers that we have from your party today is that you have 253 candidates nominated. You started your campaigning earlier. You're still well short of the 338 you need. How can you make inroads if you don't even have a full roster yet?
We will have 338 candidates so that everyone in Canada can vote for a New Democrat no matter where they live. We've had some challenges, but we're ready to solve that, and we will absolutely have candidates in every riding.
I also want to follow up and talk about the challenges you face. One of them will be in Quebec, Bill 21. Obviously, the secularism bill is going to be an uphill battle for yourself. How do you make inroads in a place that used to be a fortress for the NDP, where you want to be the prime minister of this country, but you might not be able to be hired as a teacher in that province?
Yeah, I mean, that is a challenge. And I think about a lot of the people that I meet in Montreal, a lot of young women that I've met who love science and love teaching and want to become a teacher, and now because of this bill can't. And it upsets me. It saddens me. It's a divisive law. It state sanctions discrimination. It says that it's okay to discriminate. We say, you know, you shouldn't discriminate someone by the way they look. There's a law that says you're allowed to, and in fact, it's now a law to discriminate people because of the way they look. That's sad and that's hurtful. I'm hoping that my presence in Quebec, as someone who clearly has a turban, has a beard, maybe some nice long hair as well, is a way to show people that, hey, listen, I believe in fighting for your identity. I love the French language. I grew up in Windsor, not really any sort of Francophone city, and I passionately believe that learning French enriched my life. And someone like me being in Quebec saying, I want to support and protect the French language and support the Quebec culture and identity, we can do that by promoting the language. We don't have to do it through divisive politics. And I'm hoping that my presence there as an ally for Quebec on healthcare and on the environmental issues, that something that's very important in Quebec, will show people that I am a champion for the people of Quebec and for all Canadians. Oui, ok, je peux le faire. J'ai vu il y a un système ici, hein? mais je suis ouvert. Donc, la question, c'était sur 21, la loi 21. Et oui, je pense que c'est une loi qui est difficile. Je pense de la jeunesse que je rencontre au Québec, les jeunes qui veulent devenir enseignants ou enseignantes, et beaucoup des jeunes femmes qui veulent devenir enseignantes maintenant ne peuvent pas, et ça me rend tellement triste. Dans ma vie, j'ai vécu la même chose. Beaucoup de monde ont dit que je ne peux pas devenir quelque chose à cause de mon identité. Et je pense que le travail des politiciens, c'est d'unir les gens au lieu de diviser la population. Donc, c'est quelque chose qui me rend tellement triste. Et j'espère que ma présence dans le domaine politique montre que mon histoire, j'étais un jeune enfant dans une ville pas francophone, et j'ai appris le français et ça a donné une grande richesse dans ma vie. Et je veux être un allié pour le Québec. Je veux défendre la langue française et promouvoir l'identité québécoise. Et on peut le faire sans diviser la population. Donc j'espère que ma présence au Québec peut montrer un autre chemin à suivre et peut-être on peut changer la vie des gens.
Mr. Singh, good morning. Omar
Good morning.
Sechvina from CTV. I heard you mention Justin Trudeau. I heard you mention Andrew Scheer. I don't think I heard you mention Elizabeth May, the Green Party leader. And it looks like she could be, in some cases, your toughest adversary right now. The polls show that you're in a battle for third. Why do you think you are losing progressive support? And why do you think she's gaining it? Why do the polls show that both parties right now are locked in a dead heat for third place. What is she doing that you're not?
Well, my target is Mr. Trudeau. I'm running to become Prime Minister of Canada because I believe we can make a difference in people's lives and put people first instead of corporations, as what we've seen from the past. So that's my target, and that's what I'm working on. When we look at what's out there, if you look at what people tell me their concerns are, people tell me all the time that they're worried about healthcare, affordability for housing, and the climate crisis. We provide a complete solution. We're looking at life and saying, well, people are struggling with many things. We just spoke about Jack and Nancy and Jessica who are worried about healthcare, and we provide a credible solution. We want to expand healthcare to include medication for all and all the services included dental care, vision, and hearing care. That's a solution for people who need that. And we're also speaking to young people saying, we know that there's a massive looming climate crisis, and we're ready to tackle that. We take that very seriously, and we're ready to make a difference. And I think that that provides a real solution to all the struggles that people are faced with that's unique that our party offers.
A lot of those policies you've talked about already, right? Taxing the ultra-rich, anybody with fortunes of $20 million plus, pharmacare, eliminating interest for students as well. So if what you're saying is that over the next 40 days you're just going to talk about more of the same, how do you expect to break away from the pack if you're in third spot now, if you say you're just going to talk about all of those same issues? What will be the signature promise that you offer Canadians over the next 40 days that will shoot you or catapult you to first spot as you'd like?
Well, I believe that campaigns matter. I believe that a lot can change during a campaign. And I'm confident that the issue in this election is who's on your side? Who's going to fight for you? We've seen again and again, if you're rich, you've got Liberals and Conservatives that are going to fight for you. Whether you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's charged with a criminal crime, you're gonna have help when it comes to Liberals and Conservatives. Whether you're massive telecom companies that rip off Canadians, you're gonna be supported by Liberals and Conservatives. We're different. We're gonna stand up for people. We're ready to take on those powerful interests. That's what makes us different. And our commitments are gonna come out during this campaign. People will look at us as a real option. People were disappointed by the Liberals. They don't see the Conservatives as making their life any better. They're just gonna cut their services. We have a real alternative for people. We've got candidates across this country. We're confident people will see us as their real champion.
Hey, Mr. Singh, Liam Casey with the Canadian Press.
Hey there.
Just wondering about your thoughts on the Globe story on SNC Lavalin.
My story's on?
On the SNC Lavalin, the RCMP blocking
Yep.
SNC Lavalin probe? Or
Sure.
the PMO blocking the...
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I've called for a public inquiry for this very reason. There is excuses being given by the Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, and the RCMP wants information, and they're being denied access to that information. That's exactly what happened when we look at the Ethics Commissioner, who said that there was people that were willing to come forward with more information, but they were not allowed to because of cabinet confidentiality. Canadians want to know the truth. And right now, it seems that more and more there's barriers being put up by the Prime Minister. He's got to answer for that. I would hold a public inquiry. I would ensure that all the confidentiality was waived so that anyone who wants to come forward, who has information about this scandal, could come forward. But really, what this scandal is about is the fact that Mr. Trudeau chose to break the conflict of interest law to help out powerful interests at the very top. When SNC Lavalin came calling and said, we're faced with criminal charges, and said, can you help us out? Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal government jumped into action to make their lives better. But when Canadians say we can't afford medication, he tells people to wait. That's what this is all about.
Thank you. One more question. How do you plan to run a strong campaign with the party's current financial situation?
Well, we've got a national campaign ready to go. We are on the road in our bus, and we're hitting rallies across this country. We've got so far massive rallies in Brampton, where we hit 1,200 people came out because they're excited about what we have to offer. Just recently in Toronto, 800 plus people came out to a rally. We had a town hall yesterday in London with over 400 people. People are coming out in big numbers. They're excited about what we have to offer because they know with New Democrats, they have someone that's on their side. And I'm confident people will see that with the choices that they have, it's New Democrats who are going to fight for them. We're in it for people.
Hi, Sawyer Bogdan, Global News London.
Hi there.
You've talked a lot about your healthcare plan, but the Green Party is starting to go ahead of you in the polls, and do you feel your party's putting enough of an emphasis on the climate crisis right now? And you talk about eliminating subsidies for oil companies, but how will you replace those jobs that will be lost, especially in your own province where this is a major issue right now?
Thank you for the question. We take the climate crisis extremely seriously, and we know that's something that we can tackle. What sets us apart from other parties is that we believe there is no way to tackle the climate crisis without making sure that any worker or community is left behind. So our focus is on creating 300,000 new quality jobs, and we've got a series of commitments. We want to bring in home retrofits and building retrofits. This will put skilled laborers to work, electricians, plumbers. Skilled trades that are already working in other sectors will find a place to work in communities. With our retrofit plan, which is to reduce emissions of all the buildings you see around us, those buildings are one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. When we retrofit those buildings, we create jobs for Canadians in Canada. It's a part of our plan. We also know we want to make investments in public transit, electrifying transportation. We want to end those fossil fuel subsidies and then reinvest that money into clean and renewable energy, again, creating more jobs. We can fight the climate crisis in a way that creates opportunities, creates jobs. We're committing to creating 300,000 new jobs, which will create opportunities for those workers who are going to be hit by the volatility and unpredictability of those resource commodities that go up and down and create bust and boom times. We want to create stable, long-term jobs for all Canadians. Okay. What we're planning to do is win this government. We're trying to become prime minister because people need us. They're counting on us. That's my goal, and that's what I'm fighting for. People need us because they've seen the other parties, and they're not really making people a priority. They're making their powerful corporate buddies the priority.